up, guys? On the fly show, and I'm gonna make it quick, because this has been bothering me for so long. So teachers unions, anybody knows that forever they anti-standardized tests. Children are not cookie cutter. And then silence. And it's really outraging here in Virginia because we're 50th in the nation again. And we have a Republican governor, which if it was Trump, like what happened with, DeVos and Trump, is outrage, outrage, outrage. And then in comes a Democratic president. And before Trump, Democrat. And before that, how that whole cycle went. And it's like, no child left behind under Bush. Evil. Obama triples down with every student succeeds, makes it bravo. Oh, we're not going to say anything about that. And so, real quick. So if you're on our YouTube channel, so there's a video that I did. I hate showing videos when I show videos. It's really weird. But let's see. So if you go to live, I really hate that there's more Republican stuff on here than Democrat. I really do. Okay, so this would have been right here. 6 months ago. So I found this old video from when Biden was campaigning for the DNC nomination. And there's the, badass teachers. And so I'm just going to show you guys this.
Trouble, but we've talked a lot about this. I was sort of the, we kind of had an open door in our last administration, and it was my door that was opened. And we spent a lot of time talking about testing. I think it's a big mistake to move in a direction of making sure that it's all about either evaluating a teacher based on testing.
Really, Joe?
What their class is. For example, if you're teaching an advanced course in calculus, you're going to look really good, man, as a teacher to teaching to the test. But if you're teaching a remedial course of reading like Jill used to do, it's going to be hard as hell because...
Real quick, for those of you joining just now, the teacher that asked this question is a member of the Black Lives Matter teachers advocacy, talking about how all of these standardized testing were failing children. Okay. So the irony is not just that let me go back to the beginning, sorry. And yes, that's me 6 months ago doing a show, so it's really weird.
My name is Denisha Jones, and I'm the director of the Art of Teaching program at Sarah Lawrence College.
So this was the Public Education Forum in 2020 when, yeah, it's really weird. That's me and that's me. So I'm tan because this was 6 months ago. So this would be and it's going to show, this was, and I'll go through it. I'm going to take myself off. So this teacher, listen to the question she asks Joe Biden, his answer, and then where we are today. It's stuff like this that I'm like, what is wrong? Like, you people are so corrupt.
My name is Denisha Jones, and I'm the director of the Art of Teaching program at Sarah Lawrence College, New York. I'm also representing the Network for Public Education Action, defending the early years, the Badass Teachers Association, and the National Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action.
Okay, real quick. So we're going to get into who the Badass Teachers Association and why Diane Ravitch, if you saw this on Twitter, is going to become the main focus of the conversation. And real quick, but I just wanted to highlight this right here because she mentions Badass Teachers Association, and listen to what she asks Joe Biden and what his answer is, and then where we are in 2023, okay, with education.
Committee. Teaching has changed drastically over the last 10 to 20 years. Instead of being allowed to use their expertise to develop engaging curriculum that's culturally responsive, teachers are often forced to use a scripted curriculum that rushes children through without giving them enough time to really understand the material. Many teachers feel more like a test prep tutor than a test of children, and they're concerned that both teachers and students are heavily evaluated by standardized testing. Beginning in kindergarten, young children are losing time for play and discovery and instead forced into developmentally inappropriate academic instruction in an effort to get them prepared for tests. Although formal testing does not begin until 3rd grade, younger students are often bombarded with practice tests that narrow the curriculum.
Keep in mind, sorry, as I interrupt myself, which is really weird. This was 2020, before there was the Virginia Kindergarten Readiness or VKRP Readiness Program where 4-year-olds are being assessed. Okay, so she's asking Joe Biden, who's now president. She's the Black Lives Matter Teacher Association. She's the badass Republican or the Democrat teachers who hate everything about standardized testing because why? It's racist. Okay, that's what they say. But why are they quiet now is the question that we're going to get to. But it's important to notice that she's like, oh, they don't start testing until 3rd grade in 2020. So not only has it gotten worse yet again, but because we have a Democratic president, we don't hear anything about it.
And often leave them hating school.
Given
that standardized testing is rooted in a history of racism and eugenics, if you are elected president, will you commit to ending the use of standardized testing in public schools?
Listen.
Yes.
Committed to ending standardized testing. Listen to him.
As one of my
There's
friends,
two of me.
black pastors that spent a lot of time, Reverend Herring would say, you're preaching to the choir, kid. Okay? Because look, that's why teachers should be able to determine the curricula in their schools.
Really?
I'm not being nice. I'm not trying to be nice. There's some lousy teachers out there, okay? There's lousy politicians. There's lousy senators. There's lousy doctors. I'm not saying every teacher is a great teacher. What I am saying is, you know what it takes to communicate to a child what in fact they need to know. You should be able to set the dynamic as how to teach. So when I talk about teacher-centric school, and you and I have talked about, I don't want to get you in trouble, but we've talked a lot about this.
He's talking to
I was sort of
Dr. Jill.
We kind of had an open door in our last administration, and it was my door that was opened. And we spent a lot of time talking about testing.
He looks.
I think it's a big mistake to move in a direction of making sure that it's all about either evaluating the teacher based on testing.
Really, Joe?
What their class is. For example, if you're teaching an advanced course in calculus, you're going to look really good, man, as a teacher to teaching to the test. But if you're teaching a remedial course of reading like Jill used to do, it's going to be hard as hell because...
Real quick, for those of you joining just now. So the point of this was not, that video can be found on our YouTube channel. But I just wanted to show because the reason that I'm here is because I want to focus on the badass teachers and Diane Ravitch. So anyway, that video looks like this right there. If you are elected, will you end standardized testing? Yes, I will. So that, it was right when we started this channel, so it's all the way at the bottom. So anyway, that's I just wanted to show that because it was way back when, and here we are again. And so it's extremely frustrating. And then I want to tell you guys about this secret research tool called Pinterest. Pinterest, yes, it is. It is crazy. So somebody had mentioned Pearson on Twitter, and I wanted to pull up an image that I had to show the problem with Pearson. And so Pearson owns the following publishers. So if you have contracts with Pearson, keep in mind that like Castle, and this is old. This is old. This is not even updated. This was pre-SEL. So Pearson is not just Pearson. Pearson owns all of these publishers. And then I was like, I haven't looked at the National Badass Teachers has a page. And so then I started scrolling through it, and it's all about, because I've used images of Diane Ravitch before, talking about opt the kids out, opt the kids out. It is your constitutional right. Until we fight back. And I've used those before I knew who she was, because it was an awesome message about, yes, put your foot down. Opt the kids out. You can opt them out. No. And then I was looking through here and I was like, everything is, there's a lot of, and so you can tell that the newer posts go to the top. And so, of course, there's anti-Trump, anti-DeVos. They hate everything. And the the transgender stuff starts, restorative justice. But before all of this, if you go down into more of the history, before they started all of that propaganda, what were they fighting before they were making up crazy words? They were fighting, how far down do I have to go? Let's go down, come on. I'm used to doing this on my phone. I don't think I've ever been on Pinterest on an actual computer. But so they hate everything about DeVos. But Obama gets a free pass for every student succeeds. Even right now, currently, Youngkin is getting a pass by the do you hear the VEA? Like, no. And that's a problem when you have bipartisan education agendas. That's a problem. It is a problem, unfortunately, and it would be a great thing in a normal world, but we don't live in a normal world. And so you can start to see like this whole thing about opting out if you go down. And how much, but the funny thing is so then you see pictures like this. Ask a politician, why is our education system more focused on profits for curriculum publishers, textbook manufacturers, assessment consortiums, and other groups than on children learning? These are liberal teachers asking these questions. Okay? This is why Pinterest, and I don't, do I really have to, no, I don't start over. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it's obvious that they hate, it's all DeVos, and, but, come on. Sorry, my girls are on their computer probably, which is, okay. So this is Diane Ravitch. And Diane Ravitch is one of those people that you can research. What she was up for Secretary of Education under a couple different liberal presidents. But she's one of those people that is extremely frustrating because she fought the right thing for like a hot minute. And then even now I get her blog. And I've asked her like 800 questions, like, why aren't you talking about standardized testing anymore? Why don't you care about standardized testing anymore? Why don't you care about assessments anymore? Because that's all you talked about. And then I do more research and come to find out that she was one of the main reasons. She lied in a lot of education documentation regarding the progress of education and why education reform was needed. And so, let's find, what images was I looking for? Okay, so this is literally liberal teachers. Okay, this is what's very, very, very important. So this is the National Badass Teachers. Okay, these are liberal teachers. So you have like the NEA, the AFT, and then the National Badass. So Diane Ravitch is like, just like her last name sounds, like, she is like Weingarten, but like higher up. Education Reform Explained. Manufacture a crisis that kids are being failed. Okay? This was 1983, Nation at Risk. And I'm just going to spit a whole bunch of facts out if you want to look it up, do. I didn't put this show together to tell it to you. Something called the Sandia Report, SANDIA, was suppressed from the 1983 Nation at Risk report, which is what signaled that children were failing when they were not. When the Sandia Report, you can find lots of stuff on it now that was suppressed because the Sandia Report said, no, they're not. We don't need education reform. So here's liberal teachers saying, education reform explained, manufactured a crisis. But are they saying that now? No. Our kids are in crisis. Our kids are in crisis. Crisis. Mainstream media reinforcing idea of crisis. Bring in student testing. Manipulate test results to undermine teaching results. Oust anyone who resists government plans. Remove or ignore community voices. This is from a liberal teachers. So where are they now? Bring in, these are teachers that hate them. Bring in cheap, untrained teachers. What are they doing now? They're bringing instructional aides, permanent substitutes. We don't have teachers anymore, guys. They're going to be gone. Where are these teachers? Equity. Oh, yeah. Privatize the public school system. God, can't have that. Can't have, your kids are being destroyed. Can't have them being pulled out. That's just wrong. Who are we going to manipulate? Destabilize teachers' jobs by bringing in performance pay. That's that whole merit thing and tenure. Tenure's terrible. Tenure. You've been here 60 years? No, you don't get job security. That's horrific. That's performance pay. That's like merit. You perform better. You've been here forever and your kids are passing. We would never keep you around for that. So these are things that and again, this is Pinterest where I get a mountain. And so again, Diane Ravitch, okay? She's fighting Common Core, fighting Pearson, fighting alignment, talking about plummeting scores. It too will be aligned to Common Core. Okay? Or will we have permanent army of unemployed and unemployed who can't pass Pearson tests? Yeah, that's what we have now, guys. The kids can't pass the standards of learning. And so when you have teachers unions, liberal teachers unions, who used to fight what we're fighting now, that are quiet when nothing has changed in education, you have to start asking the questions. Okay? Disaster stories from standardized tests. Stop the abusive testing. Liberal teacher site. Opt your child out of state tests now. Okay? They don't do this. You can go back and you can look at the NEA back in the history. Nothing has changed. What has changed? They added equity. They added the transgender stuff. They added the stuff to shut them the F up. And they took it. I have a document with Weingarten in New York with Dessa, the behavior screener, where she yet again, because New York City is one of the first people that brought Dessa behavior screener to the forefront. And you can look it up. It's everywhere. And I have the document where she, as the union leader, signed how they would stop fighting it. They would take more money, less hours, and they would stop fighting the behavior screeners. Don't be fooled. Nothing's changed. Parents have the right to refuse New York State Common Core testing. Common Core testing is called what? Standards of learning. Okay. Oh, this was my favorite. My absolute favorite when I found them. So they bash Bill Gates. They talk about machines won't bring about economic robot apocalypse, but greedy humans will. They talk about Microsoft. They talk about how much he's worth. I mean, they literally, but do you hear them talking about that now with Castle SEL? No, they love it. They love it. Why? Equity. Gender fluidity. How do you shut them up? Give them what they want. So, I mean, you can go opt out of high stakes standards tests. Half the stuff that I give parents on how to opt out of SOLs and MAPs and all that stuff comes from the liberal teachers. Because they're the ones that know it. But all of a sudden now, you give your liberal teacher an opt out and they're like, guys, education has not changed. Morals, values. Their highway ticket to straight to hell has changed, and they've got an expedited flight. Okay, this is one of my favorites. I keep saying my favorites. Okay, so this is again a liberal teachers union. Adults are coloring in coloring books for adults, watching shows like Once Upon a Time, Grimm, Snow White. But children are in schools that have gotten rid of art, music, PE, and recess. They've done that, okay? Play-based learning is not recess. In kindergartens that are the new first grade where they're learning to take tests and there's very little playtime. What world is this? These are liberal teachers asking these questions. The same teachers that want to socially, emotionally train your children now, and there's no playtime. There is no joy in public schools. There's no, you don't have these great, they don't have plays. They don't have programs like singing Yankee Doodle Dandy because that's racist. They don't have birthdays. They don't celebrate anything. We have in Chesterfield County 46 math classes being taught in bare classrooms with just a Chromebook in front of them remotely from different states. Synchronous learning is what it's called. Some of them from Jamaica. Not lying. 100% fact. So there's a very big problem when your liberal left teachers unions, things that they used to fight, and they used to tell parents, opt out of SOLs, they're evil, they're terrible, there's no cookie cutter children, well, this is the worst thing ever. And then now, where did that go? Oh, right. It was only evil when it was Republicans doing it. They talk about the Koch brothers, the Coctopus, if you've never seen that. Just because they're Republican, it's like Bezos, they don't care. I mean, they're all in the swamp together. So here's an interesting one. They hate these people. The Broad Foundation, the Walton, Pearson, TFA. TFA. You know who loves TFA? Glenn Youngkin. You know who loves TFA? Bill, whatever his name is, on Youngkin's new Board of Education. Loves him some TFA. Andrew Rotherham loves him some TFA. What is that? That's like quasi-teachers. Okay? So these are the same people. The dynamic doesn't change. Oh, look, there's Bill and Melinda Gates. Hate them. The Broad Foundation. That's one that Castle. Pearson. Like I said, Walton's. That's Walmart. It's student achievement part. They hate all these people. But, oh, look. They even quote Arnie. I think overall waivers have gone pretty darn well. You guys don't cover it much, but we have 44 pretty happy customers across the political. They quote Arnie Duncan. So, again, when you have the same players in education, the same players, Bill Gates, Pearson, Broad, Waltons, same people that are founders of Castle, SEL, because they are getting what they want now with equity, gender fluidity, cultural competency, everything else that they stood for years. We don't have cookie cutter children. Why do we have cookie cutter education? They're failing children. They're not learning. All of a sudden, all of that is. And so people ask a lot, and how do you connect all these dots? I read, I look at stuff, I think, there's a problem when teachers cared about one thing during the Trump administration, or say hated No Child Left Behind, but when Obama did Every Student Succeeds, which they know tripled down on No Child Left Behind, but they got what with it? All the equity stuff, all the social emotional learning. That's when all this began. If you read, that's when he redid FERPA so that parental consent then became the school's ability to do that. That was Obama. So they go quiet. Oh, nope, we're not going to say anything about Every Student Succeeds, even though it's the spawn of Satan. Nope. Oh, Trump, yep, we're mad again. Oh, got to opt him out of this. Guys, education has not changed. Because presidents change, education hasn't changed. Just like if you go back when this is over, watch the video in the beginning. It's in 2020. Let me so I will put I don't care. I'll give you my you can look me up and you can follow my board because and tell you the truth. So Patty asked me looking for the same, I get images of bats. So it's gonna I'm not gonna go back up because then I won't be able to come back down. But that's my Pinterest name. You can follow me. And now, granted, before I fought education reform, I was an artist. So and I have girls' birthday party. So if you look up under, it's like virtual learning. I like when I see stuff like this, I just stick it in either like. So when my girls were or my oldest was home for COVID, I had like a virtual learning folder to try and like be creative with her at home. And so I just started sticking stuff in there. And then there's another one that there's like 2 or 3 that have like educate, and they're up towards the top because that's where I stick all them when I see stuff. So, and it's just random. Like you're going to find, and that's how I've learned so much is because Utah's against Common Core is big on Pinterest and a lot of stuff that I want. So you take what you find, the states that have fought Common Core, and then you have a state like say Virginia or Texas, especially Virginia, because that's where I live, that says that they didn't have Common Core, and you start reading the language, and you're like, it's the same thing. Well, why is it the same thing? Every state has had aligned Common Core because every state took Every Student Succeeds, ESSA, grant money, period. Race to the top, Common Core. You took the money, you have the alignment. That's it. Florida, I just talked to a Florida mom. They banned Common Core. What do they have now? Virginia Standards of Learning. It's the same thing, except it's worse. And we've had it longer, and we're 50th in the nation. So, but Diane Ravitch, right there. And so, you can, trust me, what you can find on Pinterest, and Pinterest is, I don't know if you guys use Pinterest, but like, the Pinterest, like, you want to talk about a hole, like a wormhole? You go into Pinterest and you pull up one thing and then you scroll down and it's giving you like, and you literally go into like a wormhole of information. But so so when you have teachers, liberal teachers fighting and telling you how to opt out of standardized tests. I refuse. They even have I put a picture up one time of how to clip a badge to your child's backpack that says, I refuse standardized testing, contact my parents. The liberal teachers used to tell parents to do that, but now you try to opt your kid out, all of a sudden it's like, we don't know what you're talking about. Why? Because they added equity. They added the gender fluidity, the comprehensive sex ed. So all the stuff, they got what they wanted. So what they were really fighting all along, but it doesn't change the facts of how they fought it and what they were fighting it. So Patty says, I don't understand why adding the other stuff appeases them enough to, it's illogical. It is illogical. It's because they're immoral. You have to, so with James Lindsay, he put it perfectly, is it's like trying to talk somebody out of a cult. You can't do it. These people are the people that want porn, that children deserve, that if you don't give comprehensive sex ed to children at birth, because this is Alfred Kinsey, like his whole thing that children are sexual beings from birth, that is what these people think. So they fought standardized tests because why? It's racist. Okay, it's still, so in theory, so when you use the logic, it's still racist. And this is why when I lost my bonkers on the ACLU and the NAACP at the last time they had the history revision down at the Board of Education, 50 people got up there. We had just been declared 50th again. in literacy and reading for 4th and 8th grade and 4th grade math. Bottom, the only state basic. Again, nobody mentioned that. They didn't mention the learning loss. No, not one single person mentioned the learning loss for the historically marginalized children, the children of color, transgender, not even transgender children. They don't talk about data collection. I've had conversations with Mackie and Elizabeth Warren because they even fight data collection because it does target, especially data surveillance, transgender, gender dysphoric children because they search different stuff. And so their education records will have that stuff, those flags from the data surveillance like Gaggle, BART, Go Guardians, Securely. They will be targeted disproportionately. But here, like in Virginia, they don't even care about that. So it's like, I told them, I said, you're up here talking about how your history, you're this. Yet we just last week got a report that we are 50th in the nation. Shame on all of you because none of you actually care what these kids are learning or if they can read. You care about your agenda. They don't actually care about the children. They want their agenda. And that's why it flippity flops. Look, back to school list. Opt-out letter. Opt-out letter. Don't forget your opt-out letter. Liberal teachers. Oh, New York State. Who's that? Oh, Weingarten. Like, don't forget your crayon. Guys, so the process, because it's not talked about anymore, doesn't mean it goes away. So when you pull your resources and you research stuff like I do, you have to start thinking about, wait, this stuff hasn't changed. Just because they've stopped talking about it doesn't mean it's changed. So you have to start asking the questions of, yes, it appeases equity, gender fluidity, comprehensive sex ed, porn in the libraries. It does appease them enough to where, so you have to like think of it like the only way, like Patty, if you think that you can stay sane with that question, don't try to understand their logic. Number one, don't. Because you'll drive yourself bonkers. Because I used to. And then, James Lindsay said it. It's like trying to talk somebody out of a cult. You can't do it. It's impossible. Don't try to understand them. Don't. Somewhere along the way, little bonkers we went. That's what I'll say. So when you have the same teachers hating Bill Gates, hating standardized testing, hating Pearson, hating all of this, data, hating, this, that, and the other. But then all of a sudden, same thing going on, but it's social emotional learning, all of a sudden, they love it. It's literally standardized morals, values, and beliefs, but what's the problem? It aligns to their morals, values, and beliefs. See? So why don't the Republicans fight it? Because they can't have college and career readiness and workforce education without it. So it's literally the glue that's destroying children. Patty, I love you. I'm so glad I met you through Deb. Yes, and I do communicate this in a much different fashion because I can't be serious. I'm just me. So I do appreciate that, Patty. Thank you. So like here, how is testing mania affecting teachers? Again, nothing's changed. The teachers across America are being crushed. They still are. Experienced teachers, veteran teachers, excellent teachers are feeling that it's not a profession anymore. It's not. They're bringing in instructional aides, permanent subs. They're bringing in... So, guys, the story hasn't changed. They changed the narrative. They stopped telling the story. The story is still going on. It's just become a testing technician. Correct. Why? Because like I said, 46 math classes are being taught synchronously in the building. Parents don't know their children don't have teachers. They think their kids are going to school and having teachers. So they're hiring instructional aides. They're literally proctors. It's not the job they signed up for. So when you have teachers, actual teachers that are still in the building, that, because I can probably think of like Miss Thomasick, my calculus teacher, my AP Calc in like 1998, who was old as hell. She's got to be dead by now. But, and like, she's probably one of the last teachers before the like hazing and the destruction. Like, so the teachers that are older in are probably the like tail end of like, and then in the Middle Ages, they start like the Middle Ages, but like 30s, 20s. I mean, they've already had the indoctrination. Like, maybe not quite so bad as the ones coming out now. But it's like people like this, like, she knows better. Shame on you, Diane Ravitch. You know better. You know what you're doing. You've been part of this the whole time. Because she was probably a hippie when all this started, and they realized that Molotov cocktails weren't the way to take over the nation. They needed to start getting in the colleges and then educating the teachers. And then here we are, whoop, Mount Vesuvius getting ready to go off. And we're just trying to catch up. So they're like, oh, Pearson, so evil. Pearson? Every division has Pearson. Every division. Nope. Nobody talks about it. Oh, test scoring. And so this is, it's just, my main point is that, I don't even know what this is, but I want to look at it. Like, this is what I do all night. Like, I go into Pinterest and I'm like, I'm going to check out and I'm going to do some fun, crafty art stuff. And then I end up, this is what I do. So, anti-intellectualism, where we are. It is the toxic interplay between ignorance and prejudice which is responsible for the great historical crimes of nations. In our case, the genocide of indigenous peoples, chattel slavery, and the persisting virus of racism. Okay, I'm glad. I wish I hadn't opened this. Okay, ignorance and hatred bind together in a virulent feedback loop that produces both individual bigotry and cultural decay. True. True. Plato understood ignorance to be the stem and root of all evil. Correct. So what do we have right now? A generation of ignorant children. And ignorant is not, when you call somebody ignorant, it is not calling them stupid. I'm not calling you dumb. You have the lack of knowledge. You are ignorant in this department. You're ignorant. And I think over years, it's like political correctness. Being politically correct is what got us here. And I refuse to be politically correct. And that's why I'm a horrible person to put in front of a bunch of libs at the Senate yesterday, who I've had in the news and outed them for doing like things like organizing middle school transgender walkouts. Like, I had to sit in front of that senator yesterday. That was fun. Stare down. But so... And that's the thing, is that because the verbiage doesn't change. Ignorance and hatred do bind together for a virulent feedback loop. And so we have a generation of ignorant. So when you have people like, keep in mind the Badass Teachers Association, and they talk about the NAEP scores a lot. So the story hasn't changed. Education hasn't gotten better. So one of the places that I get the most information, I don't research conservative sites. I don't need to be told. I don't need to have my beliefs affirmed. I have the facts on my side. I learn the most researching the other side. What they say tells you more than you're going to find out if you, and this is like, I'll do another show on how I research, is that you don't look for what you want. And this is why I literally, Wikipedia snippet, hey, how you doing? We're just talking about Pinterest and the amazing, I literally stumbled upon like, because algorithms, guys. Like, so my algorithms follow me wherever I go. And like Google especially, I will open up Google and Google News because I confuse the hell out of it because of what I research is all over the spectrum. They can't figure out where my bias bubble falls. They're like, we don't know what to target her at. So, I mean, they feed me information every morning that normally I would not be exposed to because I don't watch mainstream media. So that's probably the only bonus to algorithms in the internet is Al Gore. Yes, Al Gore. Thank you so much, Al Gore. Algorithms, but is that they carry over. What I've been looking at Google will follow me onto Pinterest. Creepy. And so, God, I don't want to see her face anymore. And so okay, so here, perfect example. No Child Left Behind, which was George Bush. They hated it. I mean, it was. So here it's funny. I haven't even read this yet, so follow with me. The proposed Every Child Achieves Act, which turned into Every Student Succeeds under Obama, which Obama set the framework for with the obliteration of FERPA. That's how school officials became, vendors, third-party vendors, subcontractors, contractors. So who does my child's data get shared with? School officials. Okay, well, we don't know. If you know to ask that question, you don't know to then say, what is the definition of school officials? Oh, it's Bill Gates, it's Chan Zuckerberg, it's Bezos, it's, how many states are you sharing it with under the statewide longitudinal database system? What? And then he also gave schools, this is when HIPAA and all the medical, mental stuff that we talk about, no, that's against HIPAA. I get that response, I don't know how many times a week. No, he wrote FERPA, rewrote it without Congress. This was Obama did this without congressional vote or anything. Well, so Wikipedia, he just says schools version of HIPAA. So HIPAA would usually apply if Obama had not given schools the right to consent as parents in loco parentis. And this is what I've been saying down at the Senate in Virginia all week. With rights comes responsibilities. You can't take the rights of parents and not have the responsibility of the blowback. And we have to acknowledge that. Is that children committing suicide, the amount of massive mental health, it's blamed on parents. Here in Virginia, a 6-year-old just shot a teacher in the chest over a Pokemon card. Okay? Parents, automatically, you jump to blame them. And I'm the first one to say, stop it. Why? Because my child, at 11, got an assignment in the opiate module that told her all the names of common opiates, then gave her pictures on how to use them, like chasing, literally, like aluminum foil with a pipe, chase the dragon, crushed up with a dollar bill, like literally picked images. And then it said, opiates have good uses. Like, it literally was like, they're not that bad. And then they gave her an assignment asking what prescription medications were in my house. So people are like, well, what's the context? The context was that it's in the freaking opiate module. Yeah, it is crazy. Because guess what? That was put into all 12 middle schools by the county in Chesterfield County, Virginia. Mm-hmm. But it gets better. Then they said, go online, find a picture of the pill in the opiate module after you've told my child literally the names, hydrocodone, oxycodone, fentanyl, I don't even know which one, but listed off like 8. So now my 11-year-old knows the names instead of ignoring a prescription bottle if like my husband had surgery, or they literally sent her looking what's in your house, then asked for an image of the pill so she would have to open it, and then wanted the link posted where she found it. So then you taught my child also how to search the internet for drugs. So if my child, and so this goes, how does this go back to what parents have to understand what their kids are learning, because if my daughter was to overdose and I had so if my child was to overdose on medication in my house, who's going to get blamed? Me. I'm going to get blamed. We're going to get we're going to get blamed. Parental neglect, whatever they call it. Because we never knew that the school taught her these things, then assigned her to go look for them with the name and how to use them. So when we jump automatically to blame parents for saying a 6-year-old, oh, the gun was registered to the mother. Okay, that's a 6-year-old. Okay, we have to also ask the question of how long has that child been getting social emotional learning without a parent's consent? What has been taught to that child without a parent's consent? How many books involving, I don't know, police, how many graphic, not comic books has that child been exposed to without parental knowledge that involve gun shootings, slitting police officers' necks? Because that's the reality that it's in, is that we don't know. And if you don't know and something happens to your child, you're going to get blamed, because with rights comes responsibility. So you don't get to take my parental rights and then have no responsibility for the blowback. Sorry, this turned into something I didn't mean for it to. But my point was that how all of this got allowed. So here they go from hating Bush and No Child Left Behind to praising Obama's, what was first called Every Child Achieves, which turned into Every Student Succeeds. But then when Every Student Succeeds came in, and has every student succeeded since then? No, it's gotten worse. But are they fighting that? No, because not one teacher has mentioned to me the fact that Virginia is 50th in the nation. Again, I haven't heard at one board of education one bit of Virginia VEA outrage. They're outraged that there's not enough Sikh history, Black history, there's not enough Dred Scott, there's not enough anything for them. That's what they're pissed about. They're not pissed about the children they say that they represent that can't read. We're the only state basic. It's like calling somebody we are not even proficient, which is not what anybody should, race to the top. People talk about, they're like, oh, Virginia hasn't had Common Core. And I'm like, you can look up VDOE, Race to the Top, and see who got money for Race to the Top. You got Race to the Top, it's Common Core. Race to the Top is one that Virginia has said, we didn't take any. Yes, you did. I've looked it up. Yes, you did. And if you got grant money, I challenge everybody to, if you live in a state that has said we don't have Common Core, or we've never had Common Core, you know how I found the truth? I looked up SOL, VDOE, SOL history, and I found a document put out. I mean, this was supposed to be like 20 minutes, but you can look it up yourself. VDOE, SOL history, and it'll give you the front to back. I think it stops at 2014 maybe, but it literally will tell you Bob McDonnell in 2010. When asked if Virginia would be adopting the National Common Core standards, yes, because New York, Florida, yes, SOLs are shit out of luck. And guess what? We are taking them 3 times a year now, and that was a Republican bill. And I had to sit across from that Republican senator yesterday. So if you took the money and you and so Florida, like I said, is that I talked to a Florida mom on Twitter, and they banned it, right? The almighty DeSantis banned Common Core. No, he didn't. Bob McDonnell, guess what? Republican. He said, We will not stop the Virginia Standards of Learning. We've been developing, I have this memorized now. We have been developing them for 15 years. But we will do everything needed to align them to Common Core. Align them to Common Core for constitutional, he literally mentions the Constitution, federal grant purposes. Common Core. If you have to align, you can call it a name. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, and has feathers like a duck, you can call it a peacock. It's still a duck. Voila! Why stop digging? Why stop digging yourself into a hole now? I mean, at this point, is that there's no way out of this hole, and this is the only conclusion that I can come to. There is no way out of this hole. There are so many layers, and Virginians for Children's First. I have pulled my children because they were not safe. My child, they are not safe in schools. If you can get them out, 100% get them out. But we are here for the ones to tell them how to opt them out, how to keep them best. Because I was a single mother once. I didn't have another option. But there's no way out. Transparency in education, which is what we're fighting for here in Virginia, which is what, guess what? Rights. We already have the rights. We're fighting for them to simply acknowledge the rights that Virginia law and the federal law already gives us. And you have the VSBA going up against me saying, school boards absolutely follow all the law. No, they don't. They didn't even know this law existed. You know how many school boards I talked to across the state of Virginia? Like 13. They didn't even know any of this law existed. So the VSBA is telling the liberal senators, we do all of the. Yeah, this is just redundant. And keep in mind, guys, we have people being taken to court by school board members. We have parents banned from property for challenging principals. Keep in mind, Merrick Garland, NSBA, parents are what? Domestic terrorists. It's coming to fruition now. It hasn't changed. They're banning you from, if you challenge your principal, they will ban you from your property, the property. York, Chesterfield, Spotsylvania, Virginia Beach, it's going to continue. We're domestic terror. They're banning. First they lock you out. You can't come in your, I'm sorry, what? You think I'm going to send my kid into a building I can't have access to? But that's me as a parent. If I can't get in my child's, so Wikipedia's correct. But my kids are in one that I vetted because I knew what to ask. They have never taken a dime. I pulled all of their financials, never taken a dime of federal funding. That's the first question you ask. Have you taken federal funding? The first being EONS, EANS. That would be the elementary or the emergency aid for non-public schools. That's how Biden bought the private schools last year with the COVID money. First question you should ask if you're looking for a private school. Because, guys, homeschooling, homeschooling is inexpensive. Really? Because it requires a parent. It requires one less income. None of these answers are simple. So, no, private schools, it's like I told somebody today, do not send your child to the Blessed Sacrament out in Powhatan. They're giving maps, SOLs, they take the money. I mean, some of the most expensive ones down in the city of Richmond, that all of the ridiculously rich people, St. Catherine, St. Christopher's, they have CRT, they have transgender, they have all of it. Catholics and Episcopals are, I'm not saying all of them, but my children go to a Christian academy that I vetted. But the second that they sent me home that they would be on any type of electronic device, they got all the same opt-out forms. They COPA, FERPA. I mean, you're not data collecting on my child. Boop. Oh, you want to talk to my child about what through the eyes of God? Nope, not happening. You get PPRA. Not happening. Nope. I don't talk about that. Mental health through the eyes of God. I don't care. So, it's better if you vet them correctly because you don't have the constant bombardment with, but guess what? They're going to bring in a book fair like Scholastic, and my daughter's going to come home with two of the most atrocious books that I can't even believe they don't even vet Scholastic. So you're going to have kids exposed. So it's better yeah, just so Jackie said Catholic. The Catholic, I mean, we have people, I mean, and this mother was like, what do you mean don't send them to Blessed Sacrament? And I was like, you can talk to 5 mothers that I've talked to that are pulling their kids out of there. But, and I'm not offending your religion. I'm just telling you, if you want to get your kid out of Chesterfield County, don't send them to Blessed Sacrament. Like, but the first question you need to ask if you're going to, but guys, is that the reason I'm still here doing, people are like, why are you still doing this? Your kids are not in public school. Because we can't afford $10,000 a child and paying taxes for a school system that I fought for all last year to try to fix. And I'm still at, plus I can protect my kids for the 18 years if I'm lucky. And then they have to interact with who? The children that are going to end up running the world if we don't change this. So back to my point of all this is the hypocrisy. You can look at the NEA, you can look up the AFT, and like you can look at Weingarten 10 years ago what she was fighting, and the history of standards of where all my information on how to push back when your school tells you that you have to take the standards of learning. Where did I learn it all from? From these liberal teachers unions groups, because that's what they used to fight. And so yes, Jackie says it best. It's our kids in our community. Everyone has skin in the game, and I love that to him, because you know what? And it's really been the aunts, the uncles, people without kids, the grandparents, the neighbors, people, because everybody's taxes pay for this stuff. You don't have to be a parent to go speak at a school board meeting and express your opinion. Your tax dollars pay for this. Everybody's does. You can go to a school. You don't have to be a parent. You don't, like, your money is paying for, everybody has skin in the game. Why? Because the way that democracy in America continues to, and we are so new in the life of the earth. Think about it. We've been around a blip when it comes to Western civilization. A blip. So yes, we were easily targeted. You don't have to murder our scholars. You don't have to burn down our temples. You just, one generation and they're corrupting it and it's done. So what's happened is that repetition. I've talked about this in other shows. If you can't have repetition when it comes to like Constitution, Bill of Rights, that these things exist, if these things are not carried over generation to generation, and you can see over the last, so, you got Gen X, then you got millennials, and then you got, so where we were in 1930 versus the 50s versus the 70s versus the 90s versus where we are now, you can see the erosion of American values, of Judeo-Christian, the things that make America America, to where we are at a point where people do not even acknowledge the foundation of America even exists. So we are at the tail end. I call it 1938 Germany. We're at the tail end right now. We are teetering on like the crash of Western civilization. Like, because guys, there will be no America when this generation is done, because once we are dead and gone, there will be nobody to continue the repetition. So yeah, we all have skin in the game, because what kind of world are we going to leave to our children? And so that's why I will fight this until my last breath, because I will fight this, and then I have 60 seconds, and then I'm going to go, because this is supposed to be 20 minutes. But go back to the beginning and watch what Joe Biden said to a badass teacher, Black Lives Matter, regarding if he's going to stop standardized testing if he's elected president. That's at the very beginning. It's wonderful. And then, like I said, on the YouTube channel, the entire video, if you scroll all the way down to the beginning, you'll find the whole video of that episode like 6 months ago. I was really tan. But just to show some of this, I want to show you guys real quick some of the stuff. Like, people are like, where do you get that? I get it from Pinterest. So a lot of the information that I have started to find, like, and explain what 21st century skills are, and if I hear it one more time, or like project-based learning, or statewide longitudinal database. Guys, okay, so teachers pay teachers. is one of the most disgusting groups. And where do they share their information the most? Where can you find the most information, the most cartoon graphics that teachers share and pay teachers? Pinterest. Like this one. So you're going to flip your lid. I've used this one in a slide. How to be a racial transformer. Here's a sample illustration to remind you of the many possible ways to use your power, your superpowers as a racial transformer. Jackie, I love you too. I need to see your face soon. And so this one is, so I've done globalized, okay, so 21st century skills. So I did a whole thing on what do the NEA and Glenn Youngkin have in common. When the NEA and Glenn Youngkin have the, global citizenship education. That's a problem. That's a very big problem. And stuff like the multi-tier system of support. Okay, so yeah, Wikipedia said, who would have thought it? Right. Yeah, but I'm telling you, man, because I'm a visual person, like I can sit down and I can read somebody's, dissertation. If I want to have but in this day and age, like anything regarding social emotional learning, it's going to be the same people, Castle. Castle. Like I can just look and see who wrote it, and I said I'm not reading this. Like it's this. I mean, Castle saying Castle's great. Like no. But so you're gonna. I mean, I'm a visual person. Like you're gonna see. You can find a lot. So all the alignment that I talk about, and when I talk about how every social emotional learning I have behind me, you can't see it, I've got a chalkboard wall my husband let me paint, and I mind map over there, is that there is not any social emotional learning that is not aligned to Castle. They all are so you have the five, so how did I start to put this? I'm visual. The same 5 competencies, values, morals, beliefs being taught across the nation. And so that was, let's see, what was another one? Oh, this one, hold on. So guys, the term, like you want to learn, so this would be Padlet. So this is one I stumbled across through an algorithm. Guide to being an ally. Allyship is something that everybody needs to understand. Allyship. That is that like safe, do you have a safe and supportive adult that you're not going to tell your parents about? You need to understand allyship, okay? But this Padlet, which is like, okay, somebody's Padlet, which will give you so much information. I mean, learning for justice, LGBTQ. This is somebody's Padlet for JK to 12. And I ended up looking up Betty Lark Ross and figured out where she teaches in Illinois or somewhere like that. But so this is Padlet. The VDOE uses Padlet for the counselors, and you can look and see the counselors and Pride Month. So this is stuff this is what they build for teachers to have access to, because without textbooks, without any kind of, all they have is standards. Here's your standards, get there. Here's your programs that you can use. So then it becomes literally a Wikipedia of teachers exchanging information. Oh, here, I created this. Use this to get your child to this standard. There's no map to follow to get there. We don't know what you're teaching. That's why they can't give you the curriculum. It's because they don't know. Here's $50 million worth of data tracking technology that we've bought for your division because textbooks are too expensive. Yeah. And here's the standards. So here's your boots to walk in, and you need to get over here, but we're not going to tell you how to get there. So you can walk there naked. You can walk on your hands and knees. You can take a plane and cheat. You can lie. You can We don't care how you get there. Oh, and if you get there and it takes you 8 months instead of a week, we'll just lie about it and it won't matter anyway. And then you end up being 50th in the nation. And that's kind of where my brain just took me. Like, so that's an example of like the problem with standards. People want to fight all the stuff in between. The problem is the standards of learning. Period. Go back and look and see when your state started to decline and become dumber. The standards of learning. When are we going to acknowledge the problem is the standards of learning? We were fine before that. Our kids could read. Okay, guys, and it's the same thing, and then I'm going to go because I'm, again, 6 minutes over where I was. When we talk about this, is what I was having a conversation with about today. We're focusing on the wrong thing. Bravo, diploma rate is up. Same thing with SOL scores. Bravo, Virginia, your SOL scores are up, but you dropped the standards. So when we talk about us being 50th in the nation, if you pull up NAEP, it's not going to say Virginia 50th. Because Virginia has dropped their standards so low. But twice a year, the Institute of Education Sciences and NAEP do something called mapping state proficiency standards. And they level them all out onto a level playing field. And when they do that, and Virginia is no longer dumber to make us look smarter, we're 50th in the nation. That's how that works. Yet again, the 2021 scores just came out. Virginia is 3 times lower. And do you know what they did in 2009? They switched from grade level competency to college and career readiness, which is what Glenn Youngkin won't admit when he talks about his honesty gap. Because what would happen if he actually, and I have the report, again, look up VDOE SOL, they may have pulled it by now, because I talk about it. Standards of history of standardized SOLs. It's right there. You can read the whole document and find the bipartisan problem with education front to back. Admitting when they stopped grade level competency, when they started career, and then who became the only state. So in 2009, there were 16 states basic. In 2019, 10 years later, 1 state basic. What changed? Virginia went from grade level competency to college and career readiness. But yet, here we are every single day. You have consortiums, you have the Hunt Institute, you have delegates on the right, delegates on the left talking about workforce, college and career, let's do this, let's do that. But yet nobody wants to acknowledge this one document that says when we started to fail was when we did what? Stopped grade level competency. That's a problem. And I don't care if every senator on both sides of the fence hates me. I'm not here to make friends. I don't care if you hate me. I don't. Period. So last question. So Pat, she said that they pull that everywhere about diplomas. It's basically a post if the standards are lower. It makes me crazy. Yes. So it's like accreditation. As I sat in front of Ghazala Hashmi and Mimi Locke yesterday about accreditation, I said we're looking at the wrong thing. Accreditation over education. Chesterfield County has had 100. They care more about their accreditation than anything. Anything. We 35 of our 65 schools are in the green, but we still have 100% accreditation. I had 7 parents contact me that moved here because of our score on great schools, who had better education in like extremely liberal states, and they're pissed they moved here. We're looking at the wrong thing. Diploma rates. What is a diploma worth when we are basic? When you have the Institute of Education Sciences 3 months ago talking in front of the Board of Education saying somebody with with basic, literally out of their mouth, can't do anything. They can't do anything. That's how dumbed down they are. They literally can't do anything. So it's like equity. Bravo, you're pushing children through to make it look like they're having equal outcomes, but they're not getting an education. So tell me how equity benefits again children of color. So you're graduating more of them, but they're not learning. That sounds wonderful. What the hell are you doing? So diploma rate, you have to start looking and asking the right questions. Who cares how many you're graduating? Are they educated? Can they read? What, they can only critically think? They can only do fuzzy new math? Can they do long division? Or can they just do group think? Because that's what all of this stuff is about. They want project-based learning. An entire year my daughter took 3rd grade. All of it was just projects, groupthink. They don't want individuals. They don't want critical thinking in kindergarten, top-down learning. These are all shows that I've done before. So, but my point in this was Pinterest is a great resource. And you will, I mean, I have found stuff, you know, from anti-racism, transgender, I mean, just Common Core, school counseling. Let me pull one up. Oh, this one will blow your mind. Okay, so when we talk about the problem with gender fluidity and what gender versus sex is and why it's continuously evolving, is stuff like lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, transsexual, queer, questioning, intersex, ally, asexual, pansexual. And then the great thing about Pinterest is, look, you just scroll down and there it is. Oh, look, there's more. Intersexual, pansexual, asexual, Spanish sexual. Like, it just keeps going. It just keeps going. And these were the flags when I opened up my 11-year-old's Chromebook last year, and she was talking to 8th graders who had all of these flags flying, and they were poly, pan, whatever, that I was like, nope, not leaving my kid in another second. Secret bisexual wallpaper. That's awesome. Sweet. Secret bisexual, like, and I used to let my child go on Pinterest. Which one is a lesbian? Like, and so, yes, it is an amazing resource. But also something really great, okay, is that actual research. So this one is really great, and this would be what is Common Core. So this talks about, and I'm just gonna leave it here. I might post the link here because I gotta go. They actually dissect what was done to FERPA when I talk about FERPA. So when he changed FERPA, which would be this code here, biometric record as is used in the definition of personally identifiable information, means a record of one or more measurable biological or behavioral characteristics that can be automated recognition of an individual. This includes fingerprints, retina, and iris patterns, which is why I made a post the other day on Facebook about if they want to come do an eye check on your child in school. Hell no. Do I have proof? No. Do I need it? No. I can take my child to get their eye checked. I don't want the public school system doing anything with my child, much less when they wrote into FERPA that they could do retina and iris patterns. Voice prints. We know they're scanning them with the cameras. My daughter, the tail end of last year, I had tape over her Chromebook thing. Their click rate, how much you click, they're literally, why? Because they're using our children to create artificial intelligence, one. And then, I mean, facial characteristics, handwriting. They're creating robots using our children, pretty much. But this article is really interesting. Like, if you really want to understand, like, I already saved it. I don't know why I did that. Here, I'll just post the article. Because it's probably one, I think it came from Utah. Gotta love Utah. They've been fighting this stuff. Love Lisa Logan. But they've been fighting this stuff. I mean, and so if you want to look to states that have been fighting, so they go into FERPA right here, and what they changed. So here, disaggregation. So yesterday, Ghazal Hashmi, we were talking about behavior screeners, and she was like, well, what do you know? You know, they asked me, and I said, no. The burden of proof is not on me. The burden of proof is on you to tell me where the data goes. I don't tell you where it goes. They're collecting it. You tell me where it goes. But here, continued commitment to disaggregation. Aggregated data is anonymous. Disaggregated is not. So that's part of what, and it goes into, it's a great example of, so national data collection model. This would be statewide longitudinal database. What do they share? Examples of things they share. Name, nickname, religious affiliation, birth date, ability group, GPA, physical characteristics, IEP, attendance, bus stops. That would be RF chips and your, I mean, guys, this is everything that they're sharing. And then what was wonderful was that I just happened to yesterday in front of the leftist Senate Sub-Education Committee. They asked about data, and I just happened right there on the top. God was there, as I happened to have the Institute of Education Sciences, Virginia statewide longitudinal database map of where our state data goes. And I said, no, but this. And Virginia has taken 4 grants under statewide longitudinal database, the last one for $9 million under James Lane, to swap our data with other states. So, no, I don't know exactly, but here's where it goes under your statewide longitudinal database system. Have a nice day. So, it's stuff like that. Like, it is a constant learning process. But if you want to understand it and you want to fight it, and so I would say if you're visual like me, Pinterest is the best place to go. Because you can use, like I shared my, my name. And you can use mine and go down my rabbit hole. Because like I said, Pinterest is the easiest rabbit hole to go down to, because if you pull up one of those images, they do auto image. You can even scan, like you can box scan an image and it'll find you 500 images that look just like it, but they'll get different and more. And so if you want to go down an algorithm rabbit hole, use Pinterest. I just gave away my research. But I don't care. I don't do this because I'm not one of those people that hoards information because I want to write a paper or a Substack. I just want people to do something. People are like, oh, where did you get that? I don't care. Share it far and wide. I don't want to write a Substack. I don't want to make any money. I just want to save the world. Is that terrible? That is terrible. That's why I'm going to become a pro bono education attorney and go broke and be broke when I die. But hopefully I leave a mark on the world. So anyway, on that note, I've got kids that I need to put to bed. And a husband working night shift. So y'all take care. I'll see you next time. Love you.